Students, in the last lecture we discussed about the Japan's economy. We discussed about the geography of Japan. We also discussed about the China in the past. And we discussed that how the Japanese started an industry in Nishijin and how Japan started the first stock exchange of the world. Now we will discuss something more about the Japan. We will discuss about a major event which took place in the Japanese histories, and that is about the Meiji Restoration. So here we will start with the Meiji Restoration. So what was the Meiji Restoration? Meiji was the emperor of Japan at that time when this was a major event of Japanese history took place. So you can see from the image there is a person and he is Matthew Perry, Commodore Matthew Perry, who arrived in Japan at that time when the ruler was King Meiji, and his arrival was having an everlasting impact on the Japan and its history. So that we are going to discuss today. Internal discontent coincided with the demand for the trade and diplomatic relations. So as we discussed that earlier, the king used to be the head of the Japan, but there was a military commander, and the military commander of that time was known as the shogun, and the shogun overthrown the Japanese ruler and he took control of the Japan. We discussed that in the last topic. And he became the ruler of Japan. So king was only a nominal head of the Japan. The real power at that time was resting in the hand of the shogun. So due to the role of the shogun, the people were fed up. As a result, there was discontent in the mind of the people, and that was because the shogun wanted to keep the Japanese territory in isolation. He did not open his economy to the world trade. As a result, there was internal discontent against the ruler, and he was also imposing taxes upon the people. As a result, there was internal discontentment against him. So they wanted that there should be a trade opening to the other countries and there should be a diplomatic relation with other countries. In 1953, when this kind of discontentment was there in Japan, there was the arrival of a person, and he was from USA, and his name was Commodore Matthew Perry. You can see it from the image. And he was the Commodore, he was the naval commander of US, and he came with his ship and his crew members in Japan. And he demanded that the government of Japan should sign a treaty with US, and it would open its trade with the US and diplomatic relation with the US also. So the Commodore Matthew Perry, which was a US envoy, he reached to Japan and he wanted from the ruler from the Japan. He did not meet the shogun, who was the ruling authority at that time, because maximum power was lying in the hand of the shogun. Instead of meeting the shogun, he went directly to the ruler of that time, and the ruler was the King Meiji. So in the eyes of the US, King Meiji was more important than the shogun. So they met King Meiji and they demanded that the Japanese economy should be open for the US. There should be trade relation with the US and Japan. There should be diplomatic relation between the US and Japan also. So why Commodore Matthew Perry demanded the diplomatic relation and trade relation with Japan? What were the reasons that we will discuss? But one thing which is more important here, that he met the ruler, not the shogun. As a result, the respect of the ruler was increased in the eyes of the Japanese people, and he became more powerful because of the visit of the Matthew Perry. Now we will discuss why US wanted a diplomatic relation with Japan. What were the reasons that we are going to discuss here? Japan lay on the route to China, which the US, their whaling ships in the Pacific needed a place to refuel. You can see that this is China, this is US. They were having the trading relationship. So the US Navy used to move to the China. But you can see that between China and US there is vast Pacific Ocean. As a result, they wanted a place where their whaling ship, their trading ship could have a halt and they can refuel, and where the soldiers of the US as well as the crew member of the ship of the US could rest. And according to them, Japan, because of its geography, because of its location in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, provided the best location. So they wanted that their ship should have a halt in Japan where they can have a fueling from here. So they wanted a diplomatic relation with Japan. That time there was only one Western country that traded with Japan, and that was the Holland. So Shogun kept the Japanese economy in isolation. He did not have a diplomatic and trading relation with any other country of the Western world. And there was only one country which was having a trading relation, and that was the Holland. Now US wanted a trading relation with the Japan at that time. Now here we will discuss what was the effect of the Perry's arrival in Japan. So the effect of Perry's arrival in Japan, and this is the image of the ship which was painted by the Japanese people, and this kind of ship was there which was brought by the Matthew Perry. You can see that there is a black kind of material which is coated on this ship, and that was to avoid the percolation of water in this ship. The emperor, who till then had little political power, now re-emerged as an important figure. So Perry directly met the Japanese ruler. As a result, the power of the Japanese ruler increased, and he emerged as a strong ruler of Japan because of the visit of the Matthew Perry. In 1868, a movement started in Japan, and that forcibly removed the shogun from the power, and the king was restored to the power, and he was brought to the Edo, which is renamed later on as the Tokyo, which is the present capital of Japan. So earlier the king used to live in the Kyoto, and he was having no power. The shogun used to live at Edo. He was having the maximum power. So the shogun was removed from the power by the people through a movement, and the king was restored to the power. And after restoring him to the power, the king was brought from Kyoto to Edo, and now king became the administrative head of Japan. This was made the capital and renamed Tokyo, which means Eastern capital. So later on that Edo was renamed, and it was renamed as the Tokyo, which literally means Eastern capital, because it used to lie in the eastern side of Japan. Now, that was the time when there used to be some fear in the mind of the Japanese people. As a result, they remained in isolation from the Western countries. So what was the fear, basic fear in their mind, which kept them in isolation from the rest of the world? That we will discuss. Officials and people were aware that some European countries were building colonial empires in India and elsewhere. So that was the period of imperialism, colonialism, and many eastern countries were made colonies by the western countries. Like India and China were made the colony by the Britishers. So they were also having a fear in their mind that their country would be made a colony if they would have an opening for the western world. Like India opened its economy for the western country Britain, and later on this Britain colonized a vast country like India. So that can also happen with Japan. So that was a basic fear in the mind of the Japanese people, and as a result they remained aloof from the rest of the world. News of China being defeated by the British also heard. So between Britain and China war took place, and these were the two wars mainly, and these are known as the Opium Wars, and that was fought between the British India and China. And in both these Opium War, China was defeated, and China was much larger than Japan. So Japanese believed that because the Western countries are having a better technology, so they could also defeat the Japanese forces. So that was a fear in their mind. And there was a real fear that Japan might be made a colony like the India and China. So they wanted to remain isolation. But at the same time, there were some scholars who wanted that there should be opening for the trade for the Western world also. So when such kind of fear was existing in the Japanese mind, so there were three categories of scholars, and they were having different views about the opening of the Japan to the Western world. So many scholars and leaders wanted to learn from the new idea from Europe, because European countries were much advanced than the Eastern countries, as we discussed in the last chapter also, in chapter 9 about the Industrial Revolution. And in that Industrial Revolution we learnt that the industrialization started in the Western country, mainly it was from England. As a result, they were much advanced. So Japanese scholars also wanted that they should also import technology from the Western country, and that could only be done when Japan would open its economy for the trade for the Western countries. Then they can bring the new ideas or advanced science from the Western countries. The second category of scholars believed that they should exclude Europeans, that there should be no opening for the Europeans, and Europeans should not be allowed to enter into Japan. The third category of scholars believed that there should be a narrow opening for the Western world, and they wanted that there should be gradual and limited opening to the outer world. In this way, they would be able to have a trading relation with Western country. So there should be a narrow opening according to this scholar, which will avoid the colonization of Japan, and it will also open the trading link of the Japan with the Western world, and in this way they will also learn the Western technology of that time. So these were the three categories of people who were having different opinions, and later on, after the Matthew Perry's arrival, Japanese trade was opened for the Western world. Now at that time, the government also made some reformation. So we will discuss about the Meiji Reformation of that time. So government policy of Japan for reformation. Government launched a policy with slogan Fukoku Kyuheri, means rich country and strong army. So what does it mean? That they wanted to make their country rich, they wanted to their economy to be developed, but at the same time they also wanted that the army should be much stronger so that it can avoid the colonization of Japan. So they wanted to make their economy better, as well as they also wanted to make their army stronger. So that was the slogan given by the government. Developed nationalism among the people. They wanted to develop the nationalism among the people through the education. So they made policies in such a manner which inculcate nationalist feeling among the people of Japan. They also transform subjects into the citizens. Subject is a kind of person in a country which is having no fundamental rights, but citizen is a better condition for a person in a country, and a citizen is also having some fundamental rights. So they converted their subject into the citizen, and as a result the people were given more dignity and freedom in Japan. The emperor system. They also developed a new emperor system at that time. The new government also tried to build the emperor system, in which the king used to be at the apex, and he was also controlling the bureaucracy and the military. Emperor was treated as the descendant of sun goddess. So why he was considered as the descendant of sun goddess? So that he can earn a better respect from the Japanese people. So the emperor was made much important in Japan at that time. His birthday was declared as the national holiday. So Japanese emperor's birthday was also celebrated as the national holiday, so that the emperor could be made an important figure in Japan, and he was also considered as the leader of westernization, because he opened the economy of Japan for the Western country after the arrival of Matthew Perry. As a result, he was the person who was bringing the Western sciences in the Japanese soil. So he was considered as the leader of Western culture or Westernization. He wore Western style of military uniform. So he was also the head of the military of Japan, and he used to wear the military uniform which was designed according to the Western style. So he was considered as the leader of Westernization. They also reformed their education at that time. So what were the educational reform that we will discuss? From the 1870s, schooling was compulsory for boys as well as for the girls, and by 1910 it became almost universal. So they also did development in the field of education, and compulsory education was given to each and everybody in Japan. And for that they also kept their tuition fee that was minimal at that time, and the curriculum or the syllabus of the schooling was also based on the Western models, because they wanted to teach the Japanese students about the Western sciences and technology. As a result, their syllabus was designed based upon the Western universities. Emphasis was also given on the study of Japanese history and to develop the loyalty among the people. So Western science was taught in the school. Apart from that, Japanese history and culture was also taught to the student so that they can remain loyal to the nation, and a feeling of nationalism can also be developed in the mind of these students. The Ministry of Education controlled the curriculum, selected textbooks and conducted teachers training. So the entire onus of education was given to the Ministry of Education, and they used to carefully select the curriculum for the students. Moral culture had to be taught to respect to their parents, be loyal to the nation and become good citizens. So these were the motto of the Japanese education, so that the students could be made loyal to the nation. They can have a respect in their mind for their elders as well as their parents, and they can become a good citizen. So the curriculum was designed in such a manner which could fulfill these mottos. So that was the educational reform which was made at that time. Now here we will discuss about the administrative reform of that time which was made in Japan. The Meiji government introduced a new administrative system by altering the old villages and domain boundaries. Each administrative unit was to have sufficient revenue to maintain the local schools and the health facilities. So they altered the old administrative system, and we discussed in the last topic that there used to be the domains, and the head of these domains used to be the daimyo, and daimyo used to collect the revenue from these domains. The same system was reformed. Now daimyo was not there, and there was a rural administration, and this rural administration could control the area which was lying in its control, and they can also collect the taxes from that area, and in this way they can generate income for themselves, and that income was used for maintaining the education and health facility in that area. Secondly, these rural centers were also serving as the recruitment center for the army. So the soldiers were also employed from these rural domains, and all young men over the age of 20 years of that time was asked to provide a compulsory military service for at least a period which was specified at that time. In this way, every citizen of Japan was a soldier also, and that was a way to develop the nationalism in the mind of the Japanese people, and till date Japan is known for its nationalist feelings. A modern military force was also developed in this manner. Now what constitutional amendments were made at that time that we will discuss here. So the constitutional reforms, you can see that this is Emperor Meiji. This is the image of Emperor Meiji, and maximum reform which we are discussing today, that was done during his time, and you can see from his dress that it is a Western style uniform of military. The government set up legal system to regulate the formation of political groups, control meetings and impose strict censorship. So there were many political groups at that time, but government made a provision that these groups would be controlled by the ruler, As a result, ruler was having an authority over these political parties, and he imposed censorship upon these political parties, and this led to the discontentment in these political groups, and they started opposing the policy of the government. But that was repressed because the ruler was also the head of the military and bureaucracy, and these were put under the direct command of the emperor. So emperor was the person who was the strongest person of Japan at that time. So these oppositions were curbed by him because he was also the military commander, he was also the head of the bureaucracy. And bureaucracy, military and emperor, these were the three players in the Japanese kingdom at that time. Now we discussed that Japan's army was made much stronger and king was the head of the Japan. So military was playing a decisive role in the Japanese policy, and it was having a far-reaching consequences in the future. So we will discuss about that here. The tension between democratic constitution and a modern army had far-reaching consequences. The army wanted to conquer more territory. As a result, Japanese army invaded the neighboring countries. Like in 1905, they controlled the territory of Russia. Manchuria region was also won by Japanese forces in 1931. Korea was also annexed by the Japanese forces in 1910. So all the neighboring countries engaged in war with Japan, and Japan was the victor at that time. He defeated Russia and China also. And as a result, Japan came in confrontation with the neighboring country because it was having a strong army, and army wanted to expand the territory of Japan. Both war was won by Japan, that was fought between Russia and Japan, and Japan and China. Japan developed economically and became a colonial power of its time in Eastern Asia. So there was only one Asian power which was colonial power at that time, and it was Japan. So how it could happen? Because of the Meiji Restoration and Meiji Reformation, and this restoration led to the powerful army and powerful ruler, and that led to the warlike situation with the neighboring countries, and it became an imperial power. So rest of the topics will be discussed in the next lecture, and we will discuss something more about Japan.